If you watch or record many machining videos, you know that recording around the coolant is kind of a pain. On my machine here, the coolant hits the windows and rolls down and just blocks the view. The left window is useless, and the right window isn't really a whole lot better. An obvious solution to this is to put a camera inside the windows, inside the enclosure. Maybe a GoPro in a waterproof enclosure, something like that. That's actually something that I tried doing, and I had a GoPro hanging from the column here, right here, and the view it had kind of looked about like this. I like this angle. You can see the machining pretty well, and the tool changes look really cool. But even this high up, you'd get a splash of coolant here and there. Here's a clip where the coolant splashes up. And once that happens, you may as well kiss the video goodbye. In addition to this camera, I put another one front and center, pointing down. This one's pretty good. I find this view to be less disorienting. Everything's kind of symmetric, and left and right makes sense. Unfortunately, beyond little splashes like that, there are also other problems with the GoPro enclosures. Here's a waterproof enclosure. This is the one that comes with the GoPro Hero 4. And I ran into two problems with this. One of them is real quick to explain here. The distance between here and here is basically perfectly sized for a normal GoPro lens. But I didn't like the normal GoPro lens because it has a very wide field of view. So I replaced it with a narrow field of view aftermarket lens. And that lens sticks up just a little bit farther than the factory lens. And when I put it into here, it sometimes doesn't fit. And I say sometimes because this lens screws in here and you can actually adjust the focus. You can actually get basically real tight macro shots by screwing this in quite a bit. But for our normal, like, focal distance, you'll have it screwed out and that'll make it too long to fit in here very well. The other problem is this whole thing's made of some kind of plastic that is simply not coolant resistant. And I've got my little collection of enclosure parts that have been ruined by coolant. This is a GoPro Hero 3 enclosure, former enclosure, and also this Sony camera enclosure. I have a aftermarket lens on here as well, so I just thought I'd show that real quick. This one's a lot bigger and it really sticks out far. I had a kind of ghetto-fied fix for that, but since it doesn't work with coolant, it doesn't matter. I guess since this one's in my hand, I'll start with this. This enclosure used to have a like a metal plate down here, and that was to mount it onto a tripod, which is really cool. But I guess all the little features and stuff that they had to put into there just really let the coolant in, and it soaked in and I don't know, ruined the plastic. I think what happened to it is called crazing. And my understanding of crazing is that it just forms a whole lot of tiny cracks in there, like just a million little cracks in here, and the plastic just loses all of its integrity or strength. There's also some buttons up here. This enclosure, I believe, is the first one to break. And what happened is this front cover. Let's see if I can get some better light here. Well, anyway, this front cover goes on there and then clamps on with like a clasp that was right here. And since there's no strength in this plastic, the clasp just broke off and was leaving this, kind of open to the coolant. So what I did first is I just took a couple zip ties and just wrapped it around here. Kept it shut that way. But after a while I started to notice that this little piece of metal is just like peeling off of here, and it's about to drop my expensive camera. Basically the same deal with the GoPro mount. The little mount down here broke off. The like pivot mount. And also all the pieces, or well, I don't know about all of them, but a lot of the pieces around the clasp and stuff. So this is where the hinge normally was, and the clasp was up here and kind of snapped shut somehow. So the clasp broke off, hinges broke, the hinge broke on here as well, and it's just junk. I forget if I mentioned this. I am guessing that these were in here for like 2 weeks, in the machine for like 2 weeks. So not some extreme amount of time or something. So since plastic really wasn't cutting it, I decided to make a new enclosure out of aluminum. And this is basically the state that it's in right now. I'd like to do a longer video on this, so I'll get into more details about this. Assuming I make another video. But I'll show it just a little here. I incorporated the same, I don't know what to call this, lens cover as was on the GoPro Hero 4 enclosure. And I did that because this thing is made of metal and the actual lens is glass. And then it's got a nicely formed little O-ring in there that's, sized appropriately and stuff. And I thought by reusing all of this, I can avoid the hassle of figuring out how to attach a piece of glass onto an aluminum box, and glue it on, make it waterproof and stuff. So by doing this, I can avoid all that. And thankfully, the Hero 4 enclosure lens covers are just attached to some fasteners. Recreating the shape here was a little bit of a chore, but once you got it, you got it. And I'll probably show the dimensions in the next video, so you can copy it or whatever if you feel like it. I've also got a back cover here, and what I did is I just made it screw on. Probably having it, hinge on, like the factory ones would be better. Have some kind of a quick clasp up here would be better. But I just wanted to get this done. On this back cover, I used the factory O-ring as well. I thought I'd just show this real quick, because it's kind of cool. I just copied their little undercut profile thing here that this seal or O-ring fits into. Pretty cool. Proud of that. That's pretty thin milling right there. Oh, so a problem with this enclosure is you gotta put the camera in there. Let's focus. Hello. Alright, well, it doesn't want to focus. There we go. Alright, you gotta put the camera in there while it's turned on, because as it is right now, I don't have any provision to turn it on after it's in the enclosure. So I realized that really was going to be a big waste of batteries and stuff. So after I milled up this, which is actually the second try, I got this one here too. I decided that I would continue my reverse engineering scheme here and add the button onto the power button of the GoPro. It would be nice to have a record button as well, and even the settings button, or I think that's the settings button, but I'm going to wait for those until later, just like I did before putting this button on. Just like the rest of the enclosure, I'm going to try to use their hardware. I'm going to use their button, and there's a little O-ring in there. I'm going to use theirs, and the little spring. I'm basically just going to try to recreate these features right here. To do that, I'm going to just stick this enclosure into the mill all buttoned up with an actual GoPro inside of it. So when the mill comes in to, well, to mill it, it's going to be milling right here. Or like right here. Or, you know, right here. So I think this might make some cool video with the mill right on top of the camera lens, recording the very same enclosure that that is currently being milled. So that'd be cool. I don't know if I'm going to record from the outside or not. Obviously, the coolant is an issue. So if the next video is only from GoPro, it's because I didn't get any good video from the outside. Well, there is actually one way to turn the camera on, and that's with the GoPro app. So it's on, or I mean the Wi-Fi is on in there, and with the app I can turn it on. If I can actually hit the button. There we go. So, as you can see, there's a little rainbow thing. Sorry about that. I'm not going to fix it. Ow. And as you can see, the tool isn't quite in view, but it'll be zooming up and down and stuff. I think it'll look cool. We'll see. I'm sure you noticed the little hose I've got going here. We've got it hooked up to a regulator through this clear line. Well, it's off screen, but it's going off there. And I'm going to hook it up the super high-tech way of plugging it in to this regulator. We've got it regulated to 30 psi. And that'll blow coolant off of the lens. The coolant is shooting out of here pretty fast, so it's not gonna, it's not gonna work any miracles, but yeah, make sure not to forget to hit record on here. I plan to permanently attach a nozzle to the enclosure so that I can have air blowing on it at all times. I've switched the audio to the audio recorded by the GoPro, so it's mostly going to be pretty quiet except when it's actually being milled. I thought it was pretty cool, so yeah, maybe you guys will too. That was actually 2 ups there, pretty quick. On to the next tool. This is a little 1/16 inch bit. After this, I took the GoPro out and put the enclosure back in to finish drilling the through hole. Kind of cool. Oops, I forgot to chamfer that. Oh well, that's too bad. Alrighty, let's put a button on here, if I can. Oops. A little O-ring. Feels a little tight in there, but tight is good. And I think the spring is next. Or actually, no. This part's next. It's a little flat cap thing. And the spring. And one of the buttons. It is indeed poking through there. I forgot that this one is slightly bigger than the model in my computer, so the button is way off center there, but that's okay. Okay, at the risk of losing it, I'm gonna try to get this thing on camera. I'm gonna spare you the 3-4 minutes of messing with it that I did here. There, got it. That was indeed a pain. Let's see if it works. So it is off. Cool. This guy's about 1 millimeter too high right now, but I actually knew that going in. The thickness of this wall here is 1 millimeter shorter on this particular iteration of this model. Cool, I think I've got a working model here. A working prototype, I should say. Maybe I should put a button up here first. Nah. I'll do that on a final version. Alrighty, well, hopefully the next video will go easier than this one. I am not good at making videos, but I try, and hopefully this thing will at least let me get me some better video without so much coolant. Alrighty, see y'all.